Well, today, as Ray Addison has just told you, was King Charles' official birthday. We saw our military at their finest and the royal family waving from the balcony of Buckingham Palace for trooping the colour. The King's first as sovereign. The King took part on horseback, the first monarch to do so in 30 years. Meanwhile, folks, in a mansion somewhere in Montecito, there's somewhat less to celebrate. Meghan and Harry, remember them? Well, the Duke and Duchess of Woke are waving too, but it's a wave goodbye as their palace and media empire made of sand starts to crumble. Rejoice. In 2020, the pair signed a deal worth about $20 million. The Wall Street Journal report that the couple hasn't met the productivity benchmarks required to receive the full payout from the deal. Well, the first episodes didn't actually appear until 2 years after that agreement was signed, and now it's gone. Isn't it absolutely extraordinary that the pair who said that it was too tough to be working royals now say it's too tough to produce a few vacuous, vapid and vain podcasts for millions of quid? The poor dears. How on earth are they going to pay for that mansion's mortgage now? Commenting on the pair and the deal, Bill Simmons, who is Spotify's head of podcast innovation and monetization, didn't exactly hold back.
Wish I'd been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation. The grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them. I got to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try to help him with a podcast idea.
Do it.
It's one of my best stories.
Dude, there hasn't been a Drunk Simmons podcast. Let's both get drunk.
How embarrassing. I tell you what, I for one cannot wait to hear about Ginge and Whinge on this Zoom call. Hopefully this is the end for them. Even America has had enough. Their lucrative deals are falling away and this plastic pair may have to start learning a thing or two about actually working for a living. Well, Benjamin Butterworth, I'm pretty certain that you disagree with that vehemently, and that actually you were probably one of the most vehement listeners of the podcast.
I mean, I think I listen to every episode, but I have to say that...
I'm sorry for your loss.
My time I won't get back. In part, that was because I had to write about each episode. And that's because there was a huge worldwide interest. You know, they had people like Mariah Carey. They had huge stars going on there to share their stories. And actually, you know, I just don't get why people like you have such a visceral hatred of this couple that you can't accept what is basically a great British success story. Britain propelled them forward. Harry is one of the most famous Britons on the world. Why can't you be happy?
Well, if we consider that Harry and Meghan are a tech startup, right? They've gone out to America, they're trying to make it in the podcast and Netflix industry. Well, it's a tech startup that's gone under and maybe they're going to need a bailout sometime soon. So it's hardly a British success story, is it?
I mean, I think, you know, people like you have this constant obsession with this couple who are just trying to make their own way. I'm sorry, but you spend the rest of your life talking about why people shouldn't live off the state. Well, they said we don't want to live off the state, and now you're still moaning.
I bet they'll be back with their, you know, Meghan's handbag asking for hands out from the palace, Alex Phillips.
Yeah, I get the impression she's probably got some political ambitions that we'll soon learn about as well. But, you know, I agree with you. It does seem to me that they want to be famous for the sake of being famous. They don't want to do any work for it. It sort of, to me, seems to corroborate the idea that she probably married him for status and for extra fame, supercharging herself all the way to the A-list. But I think that public opinion, both here and abroad, is really beginning to drop for them now. I was speaking to Americans the other day when I was on holiday in that side of the world, and none of them want them. Everyone I spoke to just wants to send them back here, and I was like, no, you keep them.
Reem, do you find it extraordinary that you top cheese at Spotify, right, on a podcast, his own podcast, actually saying that, calling them beeping grifters?
Well, I mean, it is quite a damning source of evidence there for sort of the way that the couple have been able to sort of grift their way through this sort of media atmosphere. I mean, Benjamin, I think it's entirely ludicrous to sort of depict this couple as this kind of British success story. They themselves claim to want to live their truth. They wanted a private life, so to speak. So, of course, they came out with that 5-part Netflix documentary. And, of course, they came out with this Spotify podcast. So I think, really, it's the hypocrisy that gets me.
Yeah, because Charlie, I mean, Benjamin, on his point there, basically saying, you know, I don't understand why the British people hate these people so much, or why I and the British people, but it is the British people, because polling tells us this. But actually, it's the ingratitude, right? there was so much love and respect for this couple in the country at the time of the royal wedding that actually people feel a great sense of betrayal from Harry. He was their prince, and they feel that actually he's, turned around and said that there's a racist country with a racist past, colonial past, and all the rest of it. And that's actually why people are delighted that actually it hasn't worked out for them.
I think Reem's right. It's the hypocrisy. This guy, Prince Harry, was brilliant. Brilliant institution. Comes from a brilliant institution. Represents the UK in all the best ways. But the hypocrisy of leaving the family, wanting a private life, but then exploiting the media just when it suits him and Meghan to make money, to go onto Oprah, to do things for Netflix, and now not successful podcasts we've just been listening to. It is a great shame. I think this guy was a huge asset to our country and he's just extremely lost.
Can I ask, because I think there's a big diplomatic question that this causes. You saw, for example, Barack Obama didn't invite Harry and Meghan to his 60th birthday, which was seen as something of a Hollywood snub. You spent, 5 years in government or something as a special advisor. Does this stuff make it difficult when government ministers are asked about it? Because, like it or not, they play a pretty sensitive role in relations between US and UK.
They do, and it's always that balance between what they do as a family that, obviously, as the head of the nation, it supports the government, but also they've got to protect themselves. They are a family after all. And it is just an incredibly sad story, the way that I think that, they've upped sticks and gone over to the States. But as I say, it's that hypocrisy of trying to claim the want for privacy, but yet exploiting the media at any given opportunity.
Because, Alex, reports are suggesting that actually they are going to lay low and they're not going to be doing the tell-all books and interviews and podcasts and all the rest of it. Do you believe them?
Well, let's see. I mean, I can't imagine what else they've got to say now, but of course I think...
Well, I can't imagine what else they've got to do.
Right, the next documentary will be about Harry's trial in London. And actually, picking up on what we were just talking about then, it was pretty shocking, wasn't it, in that trial, when he took to the stand and was basically slagging off the government of the country. And you think, you have no right to do that. This is about you. This is about a grudge you've got with the newspapers. But he started bringing in sweeping attacks against the nation itself. And I think that is where Prince Harry suddenly becomes a problem. Both he and Meghan seem to have a sort of messianic complex where they think that their morality is above everybody else's, and they're quite happy looking down their nose, living in their massive mansion, and thinking the rest of the world has done them some great injustice.
We're going to have to leave it there, but I'm sure you at home will be absolutely delighted at the thought of them, well, sodding off, frankly, but there we are. That was a lively start. Let's move